I'm going to be starting work on a Robotron set, and I'm just getting my harness out and everything, and we're getting ready for first fire up to see what we're dealing with here. Robotron. Hook up the sink, hook up the monitor. Go. Okay, I think we're all hooked up. I think we are prepared for first fire. Robotron. Oh, it's missing an EEPROM. It's not going to work missing an EEPROM. 1, 2, 3, 4. ROM 4 is missing. I don't have a Robotron set around here. Let me see if I do. I might have a Robotron ROM board around here. I can just rob that ROM. Let me see. Okay, I actually do have a Robotron ROM board, and I know this one is good. So I will just rob that one EEPROM. Number 4. Alright, so we know that this board set needs this EEPROM. We know that. So I was just looking, making sure all of the chips are in the right polarity. And they are. This chip was missing. Okay. Alright, I think we're good to go. We got to plug in this power supply, and the monitor. Alright, here we go. Nothing. Nothing on the ROM board. Nothing on the monitor, just red nonsense. Let me check some voltages. And I will give you, let me give you a peek of the monitor. I'll show you what it looks like. This is what we're dealing with. Just red lines. Nothing going on. Okay. So let's do some voltage checks. See where our voltages are at. So 440. That ain't very good. Let's turn that up. That is off of this supply, and I had it down a lot. Now 460 something. Let's keep going. Now let's see where we're at now. 484, 485, and 490 something is all we're going to be getting, I think. 493. 490. Okay. Let's check the ROM board. There's no voltage on the ROM board. Alright, hold up. Is this in the wrong spot? I don't think so. Why is there no voltage here? Just a bad connector. What's going on here? Five volts. Okay, what the heck is going on? 5 volts here, no volts here. Oh, yeah, it's a bad connector. Yeah, this connector's no good. As if I mess with it, I can get it to do something. Well, my connector's not bad, is it? I mean, it don't look great. I'm going to put new pins in my connector because I'm not so sure it's this. It might be my connector here. Let me take a look at this. Yeah, I don't know. It's not a great connector. I'm going to replace it. I'm going to replace both of them. Replace them both with some good new Trifercon pins, right? Okay. Yeah, this is a situation that my harness just wasn't quite up to snuff. I need to put some better pins in this thing. Goodness, that did not want to go in there. and black ground. Put some good pins in this thing. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that these connectors on these boards aren't good. They probably should still be replaced. I mean, that's a much better fit right there. It's night and day difference. So, now we're ready to fire back up and check our voltages, right? You didn't even get to see what I was doing. Anyway, I just replaced this here, my ROM connector. I replaced the pins, the older pins in this, with trifurcant pins. Some new ones, and it's a much better positive connection now. So let's go ahead and fire up and see what we get. See if our ROM board tells us anything. No, it's not. It doesn't look like we're getting anything. We're getting the same kind of red screen. But let's check voltage. Now we have 4.71, and over here we have 4.45. So our power supply is really struggling. Which would tell me that we've just flat out got some bad stuff. Right? Okay. So why is our 5 volts so down? Is something drawing excessive voltage? Excessive current? We could have some bad RAMs on this thing. The soundboard is not powered by the switching power supply. The switching power supply is powering the boards, these boards. This is being powered by my AR. So the AR is putting 5.23 volts into that thing, which I can actually tone that down a little bit. Now it's 5.25. .25 still. That's 12 volts going into that. -5. Yeah, we got 5. We got 5 volts powering this board. So this board does not get 5 volts to it. It gets 12 volts, and then it's got a 5 volt regulator right here, which supplies the 5 volts to power all these ICs. So this 5 volt circuit is not doing anything on here. So I'll just go ahead and turn that back up a little bit. Okay, so we have We have an issue with parts for sure. I would say we might have RAM chips pulling this down. These aren't excessively hot. I don't feel anything that's excessively hot right off the bat. I want to go ahead, turn it off. Let's unplug the ROM board and plug back in. And let's see what the voltage goes to on this. No. See, now we go up to 4.8, which is still low. I mean, I got that power supply kind of maxed out. And that's still kind of low. But without the ROM board plugged in, when I plug in the ROM board, right now we're sitting at 4.9 almost. I'll plug in the ROM board and we go down to 4.6-ish. So we actually lose a lot when we plug in that ROM board. So something on here is not right. I don't really feel heat. Yeah, I do. These chips, these two driver chips are hotter than they should be. Especially this one right here. That one is super hot. I wouldn't say super hot, but it's hotter than it should be. These are always hot. It's the first kind of thing is use your senses a little bit. I'm just feeling for heat. This chip right here, I'm going to put an orange dot on it for fire. That one for fire too. These are both fire hot. Not quite fire hot, but they're hot. Hotter than they should be. And other than that, there's nothing out of the ordinary, really. Okay, so what I want to do is get the little scope out and just start probing around some of the, like the CPU stuff, the busing out, that kind of stuff. Make sure that the CPU has a path to actually talk to some stuff. There are some 367s which drive the address bits off of the CPU. And then there is a 245, which is the data buffer here. Drives the data bits out. $597252. This is not a matching set. Not a matching set, so not a matching serial set. Alright, so yeah, I'll go ahead and fire that thing up. Hook up ground. I believe a good ground is right here. And then we'll do a little probing. Alright, we got everything in one shot here. You can see the board I'm going to be probing. You can see the scope. Well, here we go. And our screen is blue and it's got like scrolling nonsense. It's just dead garbage. So there are some 367s here, which are the address bit buffers. This is pin 1, which looks odd. This is an enable pin and it's got like a signal almost on it. This should just be low all the time, I would think. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, this just does not look, it does not look right at all. Yeah. Weird looking signals. Okay. This RAM chip does not look good either. Corroded. There's a lot of back weirdness going on these. A lot of weirdness. These chips I don't think are bad, but I think that there's something going on causing some kind of interference or something on the outputs, or something weird is going on. And I need to look at the schematic as far as what is going on as far as enabling these. I thought that they were just enabled all the time. I really don't know. This board needs to be cleaned. It's really, really bad. This is the data 245, and it's always in one direction, and it's always enabled, and it's got that same goofy looking enable with the little signals on it. That looks okay. That all looks okay. Alright. I am definitely concerned with the addressing going out. The address bit's going out. This is the bit. This is what is coming from the CPU. Okay. And then we've got this with this weirdness on it from the CPU. And then it's got that. That very well may not be a problem, but it doesn't look good, does it? It looks weird. I don't know. $373. Okay. these are the inputs. There's no inputs to this 373. Of course, I'm not looking at a schematic, so I'm just kind of probing around. There are floating signals, floating inputs to that, but I have no idea what that means, because you know, you got to look at what is going on there. That might be some data signals from RAM or something, and the RAM aren't sending anything out. I don't know. A good place to start with this would be stripping these boards apart. Stripping this board right here down. This board's sockets have to be replaced. The RAMs need to be tested to see if they're good. I'll put them in my Inquisitor, the 4116s. Put them in the Inquisitor. This customer said not to do the RAM upgrade unless it's needed, unless I have to. So we'll see how. One good thing about these RAMs is they look like they're all the same type and speed. So I should be able to just match up a good set. But we'll have to go through and test those. The sockets have to be replaced. All of these sockets need to be replaced. These chips are more than likely bad. Both of these drivers are probably bad because they're both way too hot. We're eventually going to have to program this EEPROM because this one goes to that other board. And this dirty set needs to be cleaned up. Clear. Data, the clock. So we have a clear signal. Data's high. So this is a 74. So this should be a very fast looking signal. Yeah. And it is. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get some cleanup done on this stuff. First and foremost, because this ROM board is no good because it's not flashing anything on this LED. It's not doing anything, and I suspect that both of these drivers are bad. That's what I suspect. Let's take a look at them. If I can get in there. This one is a 245. This looks like the signals that are coming from the main board. And these are the signals. Yeah, that don't look good. This we got these EEPROMs all have signals going on. And this has got these goofy looking dead signals. What about this? This is the 244, which is input, input, input. Looks like all of the inputs are high, and the outputs output, output. They don't necessarily look bad. And these you just never know. I don't like that this is the direction down, which means B bus down up to A bus. So that would mean that this side is going to the other side, I believe. And it's always enabled. Right now, not quite always enabled. Whatever that is. See, we got just goofy, noisy signals in here. But this has got to be ROM data, right, coming back. So what in the world is going on here? Or is it data from the PIA? I don't know. That's a job for the schematic. But so we see that this chip, the 244 on this board, is hot, but it's super hot. It's way too hot. That can't be good. So we'll remove those. Let's turn this thing off. This board needs a lot of maintenance done to it, and I need to test all of these RAMs. Now what I could also do is get my programmer out, program this chip, and verify all of the other ones. Verify all of the software, including the decoders. Test all the RAM, replace all of the sockets, and that's really the course of action. Replace these capacitors, and then reevaluate and see where it is. Right now, this thing is completely dead, and there's no hope. But we'll get it. We will prevail, right? So, all right, that's the course of action. I'm going to start removing chips, get the programmer out, and go from there. And this is the story of these sockets. This board set had not a chance in hell. Just corrosion. Corrosion everywhere. Yeah, these gotta go. I got all the RAM removed. Yeah. Nice. Okay, I've removed the pins, the old sockets and the pins. Now this board had already had some sockets replaced. This one, and this one. But I did remove the pins, all of the pins, and I've cleaned I've cleaned the boards. I've cleaned the solder and prepped it for removal on both boards. So next step is to get out my gun. This is still really dirty. I have not washed this board. It's still absolutely dirty. This board right here, these two 40-pin sockets were terrible. And this one, this chip right here, this custom had broken legs. It has 2 broken legs. One right there, you see, and then the one on the end is missing. So I'm going to have to dig into that chip a little bit to make a new leg, which we should be able to do. I should be okay with that, but yeah, that one's in bad shape. This one doesn't have any broken legs, at least, but it's still not in great shape, but we should be okay. I have, resoldered the connectors, the power connectors. All the headers are resoldered. These things will have to be cleaned up on the wire wheel. And remove all of the solder, put new sockets in. This board needs to be washed. But first I'm going to remove the solder, then I'll clean that, and then I'm going to wash it and scrub it. And then this one will be ready for new sockets over here. So a lot of work to do yet, maintenance wise. I'm going to get the gun out, desoldering gun the Hako out, and get it heated up, and we'll remove the solder out of this guy first. Okay, that step is done. All of the holes are relieved of solder. So, next thing to do is wash the boards really good. And then once they're washed and dried really well, then we'll put some new sockets in. Alright, I have the boards washed. This one has a little bit of residue on it. I'll have to go over it with lacquer thinner and a toothbrush a little bit. Get some of that whiteness off of there. And here a little bit. So this board will need a little further cleaning. This one right here looks excellent. I removed those two chips as well. They're right here. I actually desoldered them. I didn't cut them out because I want to test them. Remember, these guys right here were fire hot. So I do want to just test those. I have to program this EEPROM. Remember, this one's from the other board. I'm going to clean this up a little bit more. And we'll be ready to move forward. Then it's all about sockets. And with a little bit of lacquer thinner and a toothbrush, just kind of go over the whole board, and it'll take that white residue right off the board and make it nice and sparkly. Not the greatest smelling thing in the world, but cleans it. There you go. So now we're ready for socketing. I will be the socketeer. Okay, one board done with caps. Sockets. Nice and clean. Well, that's one. Okay, and shortly after, this board's done. I ran out of 40-pin sockets, so I used a 24, and then I cut 4 pins off of another, well, 8 pins, 4 per side, off of another 24 pin to make a 40. Yeah. So there you go. Done. Nice and cleaned up. So next thing I need to do is get my programmer out and start verifying all of the software. I got to program this EEPROM, and then we'll see where we're at. I'm sure these are probably 2732s. I believe that by this time, I think Stargate, they used a lot of 2532. But I think by the time Robotron came around, they were using mainly 2732s. We'll see. That's what I think. Anyway, let's get the programmer out. And I actually do need to clean these. I'm going to wire wheel these, all these connectors. So I'll do that. Then we'll get the programmer out and start doing some programming stuff. I got the Inquisitor out with the 4116 blade. And when I first started trying to test these, I would get a failure and I'd have to fidget around with it in the socket and redo it, and it finally passed. So I had to take and refurbish all of these chips. And I don't know if you can tell, but I got the legs. I cleaned all of the legs on the wire wheel. So I refurbed all of these chips to where I put all 24 of these in my tester, locked it down, hit the test button, and it passed first time with every one of these chips. So that's another thing, is if your legs are corroded and kind of nasty on these chips, that's gonna make possible bad connections. And so these things, this is critical on these Williams boards. Connections are everything. So make sure that the legs on your chips are good and clean, and you have to have good sockets. So this should be good to go as far as RAM. We got new sockets and we've got good clean chips. They passed the very first pass on this. They passed. So all of the RAMs were good, so that's a good thing. So now I'm going to get the programmer out. I forgot about this step. I wanted to go ahead and do this. So there you go. Okay, I have dumped all of these ROMs, and when I dumped the 4 from the other board, I went ahead and I programmed a new one. So we'll verify these with ROM ident. I dumped these 2 decoder ROMs, and I have a feeling they're both bad because they both came up to this signature. Both of them, which tells me that they're probably both empty. So these decoders, I'm suspecting, are no good, but we'll check that. We'll find out when I do it against ROM ident. But I'm fully suspecting that these 2 are no good. But we'll see. Okay, all of the EPROMs verify good. These, as I suspected, both of the decoders are bad. The sound ROM is a Joust sound ROM. I have this one here. This is a 1982 video sound ROM for Williams. It's a 2532, same as what's on this board. And I have loaded the Robotron sound ROM onto here, and I want to see if this is it. This is just a chip I had kicking around here, so if it is Robotron, I'll put it on the board. Other than that, these 2 are bad. I'll have to program new decoders. So we're doing it. Well, how about that? That is a Robotron sound ROM. So that's cool. I just had that in a bin somewhere. No idea what it was. That's exactly what it is. So we'll go ahead and throw that on the board, and I'll send him his Joust ROM right back. Okay, I had to perform a heck of a Frankenstein job on this chip. I had to dig into it there and connect to that and make a leg. And then those 3 legs are soldered on. And on the other side, we have one soldered on here. So we'll see. It goes right here. And then we'll have the 244 and 245. I still want to test these. And then we'll see how it goes. So in the TL or TI 866-2, whatever it is, has a logic tester, and both of these chips test good. 244 and 245, so I will put them back in the board. They both test good. Yeah, after thinking about it for about 2 seconds, I decided to put brand new chips in the board. We have a new 245 and a new 244. Yeah, we're going new. So there you go. This board is now complete. Hopefully these two chips are both good. We will find out. Okay, we're all hooked up. Let's give it a shot. Let's see what we get, if anything. Huh. It's not doing anything, it doesn't look like. We still have a garbage. Okay. All right, so I'm going to say, oh, I think I saw something happening here. I thought I saw that flash. I don't guess so. Yeah, this ROM board isn't doing anything. You know what? I've got that other Robotron board. I want to throw that other Robotron board on here and see what happens, because I'm pretty sure that board is good. So let's do some swapperooski and see what happens. Alright, well, I just so happen to have this extra set here. This is a Williams board. So I put this customer's ROM board on here, and it did not work. So I swapped from the other ROM board both of those long 40-pin chips, and it worked. And I deduced through, well, just deduction, that this chip that I did all that Frankensteining to is no good. It's bad. So this chip right here is from that board. And this one was originally in this board, and it is okay. So this board works, other than it needs one of these chips. And this one belongs in that board. So I'm going to leave this like this for the remainder, just for testing. Now I know that the ROM board is good. And this is one of the tools. This is a good tool to have for doing repairs, is to have a good set. You know, so I got these chips that I can swap in. How else am I going to know if these chips are good or not, right? So, yeah. Swap those in. Found out that the one that I had to Frankenstein all up is no good. It's bad. So, we move on. Yeah. So the ROM board's good, other than that custom. So I will put customer's main board back on with a known now good ROM board, and we'll troubleshoot that one and put this up. Okay, yep, and with customer's main board on, it is doing nothing. So first thing I'm going to do is put a new CPU in it. Okay, I had the little scope going, doing some just poking around the board, and I didn't find anything that really looked too suspect. So, and I do have a known good CPU in the board, so that's not the problem. If you remember, this board had these sockets replaced. I am going to eliminate that as an issue, and I'm going to investigate these sockets that were done. Okay, I have removed those sockets, and it looks perfectly fine. I see no issues. That's not a short, is it? That isn't a short between there, is it? No. No. No, it's fine. This was fine, but I do not like these sockets. I'm glad to have removed these because I want to replace these anyway. These sockets don't have any center support. I do not like these. So I'm going to replace them anyway with sockets that have at least one, like the 24s will have one center support. And I don't actually have any 40s right now, so what I do is I take a 24, solder it into here, and then I cut 8 pins off of another 24 and put it in there. So I got like a bunch of center supports. This is just kind of flimsy. So yeah, I'm going to replace these anyway. But I don't see any damage whatsoever, so we are good to go. I just wanted to see with my own eyes. When I'm working on a board, I don't like question marks like that, so the prior work was fine, but I'm glad to have replaced these sockets anyway. So we will move forward. My next question is I'm going to have to look at the schematic and remember how the enables for these 367s were really goofy looking. These 367s might just be an issue, to be honest. So we'll look at those. And there, new sockets. This is actually a 24 pin, and then I cut 4 legs off of, four pins off of another 24, and it fits right in. Perfect. And it's got 3 center supports. See, I don't like these open frame sockets. I don't like. But there you go. Now we got new sockets. I know it's good. I cleaned it up. So we can move forward. Okay, I was doing some probing around, and I was probing the RAMs. I wanted to check RAM signals, and I came to the column select signal, and it is just garbage. So I got a schematic out, and it's the Stargate schematic, so it's not the right schematic. But yeah, because Stargate schematic told me that it was this chip, and it's not this chip. It's actually this chip that provides that signal off of pin 8. And I don't know exactly what this chip is. I think it might be a 7411. I don't know. So I need to get an actual Robotron schematic and look at this. This is F6. This chip. So I need to look that up because I can't read it. It's maybe if I cleaned it better. I don't know. Anyway, this chip right here, this chip is obviously bad because the signal coming off of pin 8 is bad. That is the column select. And I'll show you that. Okay, yeah, I looked at that other board, and this is a 7408. 7408. In, out. In, out. In, out. And my signal in, out. Yeah. 08, that has to be replaced. So I went ahead and replaced the CPU, because after I fixed that 08, I fired it up and it didn't do anything. I'll show you. Let me show you. I'll put it back in. This is all it does. It just sits here red. So I went ahead and replaced the CPU. This one's no good. And I'm going to try even another one. Let's try this one. Okay. We are on. It gives me random RAM errors. This time it didn't. So that CPU was no good. This CPU that I just replaced was no good. I gotta find that. It's this one. Because it's working. This CPU is no good. Right here. That's the one that came with it. And then I pulled this one out of my stock. It just reset. Oh, we could have some super flaky issue. And there she goes. That seems like there's something with the RAM circuitry that is, it's either how the RAM bits are coming back through these latches or from these latches, or however that works. This is once again when I have to look at the schematic, but there is a failure somehow with RAM. My knowns, yeah, see, I know that my decoders are good, although just for sanity's sake, I could put a couple of different decoders in and verify that it does the same thing. So I'll do that off camera. And then, yeah, I really believe this is something to do with RAM bit circuitry somehow. Yeah. This is actually a pretty complex system, to be honest, with how these things create These create an address. One of them creates an address for the RAM. The other one, I'm not exactly sure what, I don't remember what it does. But one of them I know creates a pseudo address for the RAM. So we will, I don't know, we'll figure it out one step at a time. One thing at a time. First thing I'm going to do is try some different decoders. Just verify that yes, it's not these. I don't think it is these because I have already tested these in another board. So, but I'll go ahead and do that right now. It's no longer resetting. It's running perfect. I had said that I thought this was a RAM circuit issue. And then the thought came to my mind, what if it's just a RAM issue? And mind you, I tested all of these RAMs in the Inquisitor, and they all tested good. I took the RAM, the 4164s out of this other board. I took the 4164s out of that board and put into this board. And I've got the 4164 adapter now. And yeah, it's it. That's what it was, is it's these RAM. Even though they test good, see, this is a problem with these RAM. This is the major issue with these things. These are all bussed together. All of the addresses, the address lines, the row select and column select, all of that stuff is bussed together. So if one of these chips has is flaky internally to where it's corrupting the addresses, it will corrupt the addresses of every one of these chips. That's why you get randomness over here, and it'll say 131 and then 118 and 125 or whatever. It'll just give you random crap, and it's because one of these at least is corrupting the address on every chip. So I just, process of elimination once again. I said I need to eliminate, is it just RAM chips? And that's the problem, is the RAM. So at this point, this is why you just go ahead and you do a complete RAM swap. Is out of 24 RAMs, you might have one bad, and then when you run this thing for another 5 hours, you might get another one of these old RAMs to flake out. So it's best just to replace them all. So that's what I'm going to do, is just leave this how it is, and I'll replace these chips on this board. So that's it. I mean, this thing's perfect now. No more resetting, no more flaking out. Yeah. I don't know. It would be good to figure out which one of these was the flaky one. I don't really have a way to figure out that, to be honest. Like if I had a board where that only used one of those, or two of them, that you could put two of them in, I don't know if I have anything like that. Anyway, yeah. So we have a bad chip right here. This chip belongs to the other board set, but otherwise it's working fine. We do have to test out the sounds and all of that, and the controls and the sounds. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to actually take, this is bad too. This CPU is bad. And is this one bad? I don't know. This one was in my stock. 68 B09. This is not a 68 yet, it is a B09. I don't know, that should work. I could try it again. Anyway, that's where we're at. I need to charge my camera. And we've got the board set working perfectly now. And for the record, this CPU that I had in stock that I thought was bad is not bad. So good. And I exchanged for 2 matching decoders. I just programmed both of these. So matching decoders, CPU, I'm going to leave this one in there, nice Motorola. Oh, no, that CPU is bad. This is exactly what it was doing. Yep, that one's no good. Okay, another update. It was not the CPU. The CPU is fine that I had in stock. It's working fine now. It's one of those decoders. Now this decoder I actually is new. So this one was with the other board originally. This one and this one I programmed today. So this set actually works good. I was going to actually just keep this set with these and keep these like ones together. But I think this one right here is the issue. This one that I programmed today, I believe this chip is just no good. Because this board here ran fine with this one in. So this one has to be the issue. Yeah, so with these 2 in here, it works fine. So I'm thinking about programming another one like this to put right here. Yeah. It's working fine now. We'll get to the attract screen, the Robotron attract screen one more time. Yeah, this is fine now. The CPU is fine. It's just a bad. I run into that, you know. I've sourced some of these prom chips from like Hungary or something like that, and every now and again they're just no good sometimes, you know. Yeah, that's what it is. It's got to be that one. So I think I'll put this one back in the board and watch it fail. Okay, I found the bad chip. It's this one. And that one was originally on this board. These are the 2 that I actually programmed for this one to replace the 2 bad ones that were on this board. So now we've got it squared away. So this one is actually good, which goes on this board. And this one is no good, which goes in the garbage. Now we got a good set of chips. We have gone out of focus. Yeah. All good. I'm waiting for the Robotron screen one more time. That's where it would mess up. And it would have already messed up by now, to be honest. So, but we'll look at that screen one more time. The Robotron attract screen, the main screen. after you get all these dudes. And here it is. Good to go. Yeah, so this chip is bad. So I'll have to replace that for that board. Alright, I think we have a solid setup now. I have 4164 RAMs installed in the board. Of course, we're using our adapter. And after replacing, remember this was bad. And these 4164s I actually had in stock. That set that I had put in here, I put back in the other board, and I put a new set in this board. They're all matching time, 150 nanosecond access time. And it seems to boot to 0 every time. Which means I think that we are, now watch it not boot to 0. Yeah, I think that we are squared away. Yeah, see. And I'm also not having to hit reset, which tells me that the CMOS circuit is working with the battery. So we should be good to go now. And I can move on. So I am having to do the RAM upgrade because those 4116 RAMs that were in here were flaky as all get out. And they just needed to be replaced. I put them in a tube and I am sending them back to customer. And he's getting all fresh new 4164 single voltage RAM. So there you go. So now we can work towards getting sound working. Alright, couple of things. Number one, this board that was included with this set is a Defender interface board. This will not work with this set. I have here an actual Robotron board that I'm using for testing. And this one I tested back in 2022. 1/30 of 2022 as working, and it does work. I've tested all of the controls. And all of the controls are good. So, yeah, this will not work. So now the question is about the soundboard that is with it. I'm going to have to do some research and find out what the soundboard is, because so far we have this board that is not correct. And it's not a matched set. It's just kind of a hodgepodge set. So I will go ahead and I'm going to leave this with it for testing. This I will send back. It does not go with this board set. And I'm not getting any sounds, which is kind of telling me, is this the actual correct board for, is it set up for this? This is actually not, this is actually a Stargate board here that I had here. The actual one that came with this set I've got sitting over somewhere else, which I'll check that out here in a minute. But yeah, having to decipher what's what. It's like a bunch of boards were just thrown together, and they, like this just doesn't go with this set. It won't work with this set. So yeah, deciphering what's going on. Okay, couple more things. Number one, I got it to where the sound is working now, and all I had to do, well, what I did was I replaced all of these sockets, the 4 sockets, and the 6808 processor is no good. It's dead. So I put a new 6808 in it, and I had to clean, even with those 4 chips known good, because I removed these and tested them. I tested the RAM and this PIA, and they tested good. I know the RAM is, or the ROM is good. I know it's a Robotron ROM. So yeah, those were good for sure. I put it all back together with the bad CPU in it, and nothing. I put the good CPU in here, this one that I have in here now, and tried it, and I got nothing again. I was like, all right, well, maybe I need to clean these sockets, or these fuses. So I did. I got my Dremel with a little itty-bitty tiny wire wheel, Dremel size wire wheel, and Dremeled inside of these fuse holders, and I did the outside of the fuses themselves, cleaned them. There was some green fuzzy corrosion on there. Cleaned those up, popped it back in, and sound worked. So I was like, okay, well, I'll put the original CPU back in it. So I did put the original CPU back in it, and it was dead. Put the CPU back in it, sound is back. So yeah, that was what was with this. So this has new sockets. I reflowed the solder on everything, cleaned the fuses. I replaced the 5-volt regulator. So that is my maintenance work on this guy. Over here, I'd be playing the game, and I can coin it up. Start. Here's up, down, left, right, fire left, fire up, or fire down, fire right, fire up. That's all the movement. And then coin 1 and coin 2 works. Now, mind you, this is not the customer's interface board. Remember, the customer's interface board is actually a Defender board, which will not work with this set. So he's going to have to source his own board here. I can't. This is not mine to sell. So anyway, when I was playing it, it would flat out die on me and reset and freeze. And then when I would hit reset again, it would say factory settings restored. So I knew I had a problem with the CMOS RAM. So I replaced that, and it had a broken cap right here. So I replaced it, replaced the CMOS RAM, and that fixed that problem. So now I have a score of 1200 up on it. Sound is working. It's all working now. Unfortunately, every now and again, this thing will boot with a random RAM error, and then it clears out and runs. That's just so typical of these board sets. And it's just all of these RAM that's on this board. You know, there's really nothing too much you can do about that. But for the most part, it will boot to 0. Oh, I just reset it. Now I'm going to have to put another score on it, because I want to put a high score on it and then let it run, so that I know if it resets or not. Yeah. Yeah, there is a RAM error. See that? There's RAM problem. Look at that. See that? That is definitely some kind of goofiness. Dang, what in the world is going on? Interesting. I wonder if it could be this cable. I got some more testing to do, for sure. I'm kind of at a loss right now because it should not be the RAM. I believe these RAM are all good. I'm just going to keep having to mess around with this. Okay, well, I pulled out another one of these boards that I had refurbished this years ago for a friend. And I still had it here, and I popped this on. It's got a new cable. It's everything's socketed. Well, not everything. These chips right here are not. But all of the ROM's sockets have been replaced. These sockets have been replaced. So this is a really nice board. All of the headers have been replaced. This is, this is my friend's board. These two chips have been replaced. This board actually goes along with this board, to be honest. That's a set. So I've got this on, and I've been messing around with playing it, and there's no flakage. So I am suspecting this cable. This is customer's board. I'm suspecting the cable is bad, and that's what's kicking me the random errors and then the lines through the screen and stuff, because that cable will do that. That's what I think is going on, is we have a bad cable situation on that board. So we'll repair that. Yeah, but with this on here, I'm not getting any of that. I'm not getting any of that weirdness. And that might have been the whole problem with this too. This chip, I actually did not cut this out. I removed it because this chip might not actually be bad. That could also be this board messing with that. So I think that's the whole problem, is I need to replace this cable. I do believe that is my issue. Yeah. Yeah, it's not resetting at all anymore. It's not acting goofy with this ROM board. Yeah, with this ROM board, it's not acting goofy at all. So, yeah, that's the issue. Come and get me, guys. There you go. So, I am going to have to replace the cable on that. I'm going to pop the original 2114 back in the board just to make sure. I mean, and if it starts flaking out, I'll put this one, the new one, back in it. But I think that chip is probably okay. So, yeah. All right, cable. Yeah, I put the original CMOS RAM chip in the board, and it is fine. I've just been playing it a couple of times and put a score on there, so it's fine. So, yep. I'm going to move on to... Well, it's good to have it socketed anyway. So I'm going to move on to replacing the cable on the ROM board, because that is the issue. clean the solder before you desolder. Okay, that's that. We got the old one removed. And I would like to thank one of my Patreon members made this little board. It's an adapter to make a 40 pin female to female 40 pin female to female IDC connector. Just plug into this board, and this is the first time I'm ever using one. And these are just 0.100 of an inch pins, and I've plucked every other pin out. And you've got 40 of them, 4 strips of 10. And then that just goes into this board. And I would like to thank whoever it was that made this. I don't know who it was. I don't remember. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, that just goes in there like that. And now I will solder it in. I'll solder the top first. Look at this. Let me grab the camera. What I want to do is solder the tops and then pull it out and solder a dual row 20 and 20 for a 40 pin connector there. So I'm going to go ahead and solder all of this and then remove it and solder a dual row header and then put it back in and solder it into place. Okay, and this is part one of this. I've soldered this whole thing. You're basically using the ROM board to hold this, right? And then that's all soldered. Now you just solder it into place in this. No, first you have to solder a header in. Now you remove it. you put a dual row header here, 40 pin header, solder that in, and then you put it back in the ROM board and you solder it into the ROM board. I did not design and create this board. I don't remember who did. It's one of my Patreon members. This little, if we don't hear from the creator of this is up on my Patreon page. And it's a pretty amazing little board. Take credit for this. Whoever it was that created this board, please take credit for it in the comments, because this is an amazing little creation. So I'll go ahead and put and solder a 40 pin dual header in here, and then solder it into the board. And this is the finished product and cleaned. You got your 40 pin, that goes, there's your dual header, and then this goes into the ROM board, and there's your soldered part of the dual header there. And then this just goes into the ROM board and gets soldered into the ROM board, and then you have a header here that will, you just have a plug to go from here to the main board. That's it. There it is, finished. Now we have 40 pin headers on both boards. So we can just have a simple 40 pin IDC female to female connector. That is nice. And there you go. Turned it on, it booted right to 0. Now, I don't have any 40 pin connectors, so I actually crimped a 50 onto it. And you can see it's kind of, there's 10 unused pins on there. That's all I got is 50s, so I might have to stock up on some 40s as well. But look at that, how awesome that is. There's the old cable. Yeah, that is incredibly cool. There you go. Now we got a good, solid, positive connection between the boards. I really like that. Really, really like that little board. That thing is awesome. So now you just have a straight up cable that you can plug into this board, plug into that board. So I'm going to let this one run for a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and coin it up, play it, and all that good stuff. And make sure it doesn't do any goofiness, and then I think we're going to be good to go. Now, this customer, you're going to have to know that you need to source a chip, because this is not mine to sell. So this chip has to stay with that other board set and the proper this board, the proper widget board, the interface board. You will need to source that as well. But everything else is good to go. So I'll be back to wrap this one up after this thing runs. You know what, let's do this right here, right now. I'm going to put a little score on it. And this was actually, I had a long 40 pin cable. And I don't know where the rest of it went to. Oh, right here. This was a really long 40-pin cable. You cannot use a cable this long. It will not work. It has to be a short cable. So I actually cut that much off of the end. It was 40 to 40. So I actually just cut that much off of it and then put a 50 pin on there. That's how I got that cable. Is I actually cut this in half, or not even in half. I just cut, you know, so much off of it. It was about this long maybe. And then put that 50 pin connector on it. That's where I got that cable. That is that. So let's go ahead and coin this baby up. Just putting a little score on there. And there we go. Now we got a little score on there, 1,400 points. I'm just going to let this run now for the better part of the day. Yeah, because I originally tried to put that long cable on here and it did not work. So after I cut it down and put the 50 on there, and now it works. But if you have that long cable on there, it will not work. So something to keep in mind. But there you go. Perfect. I'll be back to wrap it up. I noticed that I had a really shoddy connection through the power. My power connection was very shoddy. So I realized all of these connectors should be replaced. These are all very problematic. Always, on any board. On any board that has these, they're problematic. Vector monitors always have these connectors and they're always troublesome. So I decided to go ahead and I'm replacing all of them. So I've removed the power. I did not remove this because this one's not that important. The video, all of the soundboard headers, and I've already replaced, I had enough to do the power input on the ROM board, so I did that. But that's all I had as far as these headers. I've got them all removed, as you can see. I got them removed and prepped. They're removed and prepped. On all these boards. Yeah. So I had to put in an order for those headers. Yeah, so I've got headers coming. And I got to wait for those. I got to put this to the side and wait on those headers. And then, you know, pick up from there, unfortunately. But yeah, it'll be, yeah, it really needs to be done. Connections are everything. As you know, you've heard me say 100,000 times. Connections are everything when it comes to these games, these old boards. So yeah, go ahead and replace all of these to make this thing solid. And I'll pick back up once those get here. Alright, I have all of the headers replaced. Now on this board is running 4164 now, not 4116. So you do not need 12 volts and negative 5 volts anymore on this board. So what I have done is I've modified the connector. Let's cut this pin off. Let me get something to point with. Cut off this pin and cut off this pin, and then all you do is you solder blob the 5 volts to this pin right here. This is 12 volts. This is negative 5. You get rid of both of those, and on the back of the board you just solder a bridge across this pin and this pin that sends 5 volts to the 12 volt rail, which powers 4164s. That's all you're doing here. Now you don't have to have any kind of a adapter or anything. You just plug this in as normal and you're good to go. So we are ready to fire this thing up. All new connectors, all new headers. And I've got my Williams Defender power supply out. I'm running it off of the original power supply. So let's go ahead and fire it up. This is my Williams transformer. I have a Williams transformer and everything down here. Right down there. That's a Williams transformer running up through right here to this guy. So let's go ahead and fire it up. Hopefully it goes right to 0. And it does. So Robotron. There you go, sound and everything. And there she is. So that will conclude this Robotron repair, now that all of the headers are replaced. It just reset. $115 RAM. It's giving me a 115 RAM error. Alright, well, something. I think this is a ROM board issue. I'm going to go ahead and put the other Robotron ROM board that I have back on this thing, because I think there's something wrong with this ROM board, and I want to run it. Look, it cleared all the factory settings and everything. It cleared all of the saves and everything. So I want to just throw the other ROM board on here and really exercise this board, because I don't think there's a thing wrong with this board. I think it's up here. I could be wrong, but that's my hunch. So I'm going to throw the other one on here and let it run for a while and test it out. Alright, I swapped back to this board that I know is good. And I actually swapped the RAM from our problematic board to this board, and the RAM from this board back to this board. Both 4164 RAM. Because I wanted to eliminate, is there flaky RAM? And there is not. This one's running rock solid. No issues. So now I know for a fact that I have a logic failure on that board. And it's not decoders. That's another thing. Is it decoders? Is it a flaky RAM? I just didn't know. And I wanted to eliminate that possibility. So now I know. We have a logic issue on this board, and tomorrow that's what we're going to tackle and find that logic failure. But everything else is perfect. The board this ROM board works great. Soundboard works great. He doesn't have a controller board, but my power supply works great. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and shut down for the night. But tomorrow, I'm going to come out here. This thing's going on, the test. And we're going to just sit and diagnose that thing and find out. Try to find the smoking gun of what is going on. I'm going to focus on RAM control, timing signals, yeah, I think that's, CPU access RAM, CPU reads from RAM or something, because something's going haywire. Something is going bad to where it's causing this thing to reset. It's like a conflict between reading. It's having some kind of conflict between reading RAM or ROM or something like that, and it's freaking out and stopping. So there's some kind of either a timing issue and it's getting lost in the weeds a little bit, or something's going on. I don't know exactly yet, but we're going to dive into it tomorrow. So there you go. See you then. All right, I'm actually doing something new. I've never done this, and I'm going to give it a shot. It's evening. I'm getting ready to call it a day. I got the board here. This is the main board for that Robotron. And I have kind of stripped it down. I've pulled the decoders out of it. I've pulled all of the RAM out of it. And I have the CPU in it. So I'm sure this is resetting and resetting and resetting, and who knows. Anyway, what I want to do is bake these ICs. You know what? I am very curious. Let me hook up. I want to see if this thing is trying to address anything. If it's not, if it's just statically sitting there, I think I'm probably just going to remove this too. The idea is I want to put current through all of the logic chips and let them just kind of cook overnight. Yeah, so if I look at the address line, address bits, you can see it's just resetting over and over and over and over and over again. So we have our clock signal. So we've got current going through all of this logic. Yeah. This is what I want. I want just some signals going through. Now, I wonder... Yeah, these are all doing their thing, counting. The hardware is probably going to work like that without even... Yeah, see all that? I wonder if we'll get all that, still get all that if I remove this. Let me try to remove the CPU and see if we get any action, or is it just totally like kill the board? I'm curious. No, we still have... We don't have anything going through these drivers though, these guys. I would like this to go high and low and high and low and high and low and drive, sink some current and stuff. I want to work this stuff. So I am going to keep the CPU in here. Yeah. I'm just going to let this thing run like this. It's current limited to just over an amp. I got 160 watts. 160 divided by 120 volts, 130 volts if you will, maybe. Yeah, it's 1.2 amps or something like that max. I'm going to go through here. Even if there's a catastrophic dead short, it'll hold it right there. It won't let it go any. It won't let it go completely short like that. So the idea is I just want to run this logic because I want something to quit being flaky and just fail outright. I want to shake out the shaky parts, if you will. So that's it. I'm going to let this thing go. Go to bed and forget about it. I removed the battery. I removed the decoders. I removed all the RAM. I don't need to exercise all that stuff. So there you go. Okay, it's the next day. Put the board set back together. I left the battery out. And I've got it all hooked up and it's running perfect. I put one credit in. I put a credit in. So that if it does reset, but with not having a battery, even if it does reset, it'll be at the, it should, well, I don't know if it'll come to this or not. Anyway, that's what the credit's for, is to see if it does reset and comes back to this, because I'm not going to sit here and babysit this. I'm going to let this sit here and run all day. Why would it work okay just because the battery's not in? I removed the RAM and put them back in. Did I have a leg out of circuit? Or a flaky, a bad connection or something? I don't know. I let this thing run all night, current limited. And then I put it all back together. And it's working as it should. So, I don't know. It's a head scratcher. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it just sit here and run all day. It's early. It's early in the morning. Well, I don't know how early it is. Well, no, it's noon. It's noon right now. So I'm going to let this run all day. I'll come back out and check on it every now and again and see if it fails. But as of now, it's not failing. And did it have something to do with the battery circuit? Because if you remember, it would flake out and then it would say that the CMOS was cleared. So I don't know what's going on. But I'm going to sit here, I'm going to let it sit here and run. So I'll check back in later on today. All right, I'm actually going to put another credit on it. And I want to start the game and try to put a little bit of a score on. If I can do that. Sorry. I hit 2-player. That's okay. I just want to put a score on the board for both players. Kill me, I'm here. Alright, I'm just going to let them get me. I've got a score up for both players. I got 700 for player 1 and 800 for player 2. And if those scores are gone, then I'll know that it reset. Hey, player 2 actually got a human. Saved a human. Game over. There you go. Now I've got scores up on there. $700 and $1,800, I believe it was. Yeah. $700 and $1,800. So I'll just check on this periodically and make sure those scores are still there. I mean, this thing's running as it should. There's something weird about the battery circuit, I think. Either that or I had a leg not making good contact with a socket or something. I don't know. Because it's running as it should now. So, weird. I don't know. Go figure. It is now 7 p.m. This thing has been on for 7 hours without fail. You'll see my scores are still up. Yeah, this thing's been running for 7 hours now. 700 and 1,800. The only difference, well, I had removed some parts. Remember, I removed all the RAMs when I ran this last night. I removed the decoders. And I removed the battery. Now, does this battery, is that the problem? You know what I want to do? I want to turn it off and put the battery back in it and see what happens. Because this thing is 7 solid hours, no failures at all. So let's do that. The only thing I can think is I'm going to put the battery back in and run it and see what happens. Okay, I just put the battery back in, turned it back on. Had to reboot it. Yeah. It probably won't be an issue, I would imagine. I'm not sure. I'm not going to sit here and hold the camera. I'll come back in a little bit. Alright, so I just played a game, put 2,100 points on the board. Got the battery in. Yeah, I put 2,100 points up on the board. And I'm just going to forget about it for another while. Another thing that I did do towards the end of last night was I swapped the RAM for a different batch of 4164. So maybe that's it. I don't know. And I did scrub and clean this board some more. Maybe there was a solder flake on it. It's really hard to tell. I don't know. But it is running as it should now. And I did clean this too. This connector was pretty filthy. And I cleaned that connector. The pins. Yeah, who knows. But, I don't know. Now it's good. I'll check back in. I'm only going to let it go maybe another 2 hours or so. And then I'm calling it good. I'm calling it done. And once again, this set is minus this chip. This chip does not stay in this board. And this board is not for this set. Remember, he sent a Defender board along with it. So, yeah. Other than that, interesting. All right. It is 8 o'clock. My score is still there. 8 o'clock. So this thing's been on for 8 hours. I'm going to call it good. I'm pulling the plug. I just dropped my camera and I dropped it on the floor. And when I picked it up and opened it, it was like it wouldn't focus. And I thought it was dead. And I just took and I smacked it a bunch of times and then opened it back up, opened the viewfinder back up, and it worked. So I'm like, holy crap, that was close. I kind of need to upgrade and get a 4K camera anyway. I've been using this 1080 camera for the better part of 5 years, maybe. And it would be nice to upgrade, do a little 4K action. Anyway, that does not look very good and focused. Yeah, that's better. I think it's time to upgrade the camera. Anywho, yeah, we're ending this one because it's had 8 solid hours of no failures now. It must have, I'm thinking it had to do something with the RAM that I had in the board. Maybe I had a leg that one of the pin legs wasn't quite in the socket or something. I don't know. But it is fine. No failures in 8 hours. I'm calling it good. So there you go. So I'm going to move back to more Taito stuff. I got a couple more Kicks sets, and I got a couple Zookeeper sets. And guess what I have? Personally, I personally bought these off of eBay back in, I think, like 4 years ago. That's a Taito Kicks RAM PCB. And I have two of the data processor boards, sound boards. There's a date on it. That's my birthday, May 24th of 21. Hey, now you know what my birthday is, May 24. And two of the big boards. No battery damage on either, smiley face. No CPUs or RAM in the PCBs. So they need to be built, maintained and built. But I think I'm going to go ahead and build one set. And I'm going to do it as a Zookeeper. Because you don't need that little auxiliary ROM board to do Zookeeper. You can do Zookeeper on the main board. And you have to make a little daughter board to hold some additional circuitry and put it into a couple of the sockets. Which I'm going to do that on this. And I'm going to make a Zookeeper out of this 3-board set. And I'm going to sell it. I'm going to build the board. I'm going to repair it, get it all nice and solid, and then I'm going to sell it. It'll be a Zookeeper. So yeah, there you go. We're going to end this one. I appreciate everyone for watching. Check out my Patreon over at Classicarcaderepairs. Patreon/Classicarcaderepairs. Subscribe if you're not. It's absolutely free. And I appreciate every one of you for watching and commenting. And yeah, we'll see you all on the next Classic Arcade Repair. This was a long one. This was a very long one, but I think it was a good one. So there you go. See y'all on the next one. Bye for now.